think that I need to tell you that Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, action-adventure films of the 80s.
The casting of Harrison Ford as the mortal Superman that is Indiana Jones in a neck-and-neck race against the Nazis to ensure that they don't get a religious artifact so that they can dominate the world thrilled audiences and has become a staple of American popular culture. Of course, sequels followed, and of course they did not live up to the original in any way, but on their own they stand up as fun adventure films.
But which one is better? Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, or Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade? I will tell you. Now.
First off, let's look at the opening sequences. Of course, the opening sequence for Raiders is just a classic one, introducing the hero and climaxing with a giant boulder. How do you top that? Well, in Temple of Doom, we start off with the car chase in Shanghai, where Indiana Jones escapes on a plane whose pilots dump the plane's gas and abandon it trying to kill Indiana Jones, who escapes the plane in an inflatable raft, which lands in a raging river where they finally end their stunt in India.
Unbelievable? Yes. But totally badass. But what about the Last Crusade?
Well, we see a young Indiana Jones in his first adventure stealing the Cross of Coronado from some grave robbers, and he escapes on a train.
A train. A mode of transportation which is on a fixed track. I could just follow the train by car.
In fact, in one shot, you can see the bad guys do just that. Sure, we do have some action and suspense where the bad guy is chasing him on the train, and we see why Indy hates snakes, masters the whip, and gets his hat, but all in one day?
Come on, that's pushing it, don't you think? I mean, I didn't get my entire personality traits in all in one day. It took me years for me to be this fucked up. Temple of Doom wins. So now let's look at the sidekicks.
In Temple of Doom, you have some of the most annoying sidekicks until Shia LaBeouf came out to the franchise. You have Willie Scott, a money-grubbing nightclub singer who hates the outdoors and snakes and dirt and bad smells and screams a whole lot throughout the film. Not since Fay Ray and King Kong has there been so much screaming in a film.
The biggest trouble with her is the noise.
Then there's Short Round, this cute little Chinese orphan that Indy adopts and becomes his confidant. He loves Dr. Jones and stays at his back through thick and thin, but man is he annoying.
Wake up, Dr. Jones! Wake up!
But are the sidekicks in The Last Crusade any better? Well, this time we have the classic compadres come back. Sala, Marcus Brody, and a new sidekick, Indy's father, Dr. Henry Jones, played by Sean Connery.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But let's take a look at these characters more closely.
In Raiders in the Lost Ark, Marcus Brody has a very small part as the museum owner. He was stoic, intellectual, and one of Indy's closest friends. In Last Crusade...
Indy! Henry! Follow me! I know the way! Ha!
What happened? Marcus Brody became this bumbling idiot whose claim to fame is that he got lost in his own museum. Maybe this was his character was meant to be, or maybe it was the bump up to the head. But then there's Sala. In Raiders, Sala was to Indy as Felix Leiter was to James Bond. An ally with lots of information. Someone who could help our hero get from point A to point B. In The Last Crusade...
I'm going after those horses.
I'll take the camels.
I don't need camels.
But Indy.
No camels.
Sala became a stereotype. He wasn't a man of information and a helping hand, but more of a stumbling block. He got in the way more than he helped. He wasn't brave, but cowardly. But then there's Indy's dad.
Jesus Christ. Temple of Doom. Next up, the final chase.
Now, in The Last Crusade, the final chase was to rescue Indy's father from the Nazis, and Indy chases the Nazi army, who has a tank on a horse. Now, the return of the horse is really cool, and I love watching Indy ride a horse. But the chase itself is no Raiders, where Indy chases the Nazi army on a horse and climbs over and under a moving truck. In The Last Crusade, Indy chases the tank on a horseback, gets on the tank, rescues his dad, and then the tank with Indy and the ultra bad Nazi goes off a cliff.
Then something miraculous happens.
Indy climbs up the cliff.
Now, I know that these are great little action-adventure stories, but for fuck's sake, do you believe that our suspension of disbelief is that great and that, oh, come on, the hat too? Let's look at Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom starts off with Indy rescuing Willie Scott from being sacrificed in lava, rescuing the village children from slavery, and fight a massive thuggy guard.
Which is the only callback to Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Then we go on to a minecart chase.
Yeah, I know, it's a fixed track, but there are no automobiles following him, and it's a fucking roller coaster.
Then get trapped on a suspension bridge, and the only way to survive is... Yep.
What are you doing?
And here's the cool thing about this chase. After they survive this, which includes Indy climbing up a cliff again, but it's more believable because the suspension bridge is like a ladder, that's the end of the movie. There's no additional 20 minutes after the chase to find out who gets the MacGuffin. The MacGuffin is already gotten, and we wrap up all the loose details. Indy kisses the girl, and the credits roll, all in 5 minutes. This way, the audience is still jazzed by what they saw, and they continue to talk about it as they leave the theater. It's a clever way of putting together a film. Temple of Doom all the way.
So now we get to the final part, the MacGuffin itself.
Now, the MacGuffin is the object that both parties are trying to get. In Raiders, it was the Lost Ark. In the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it was a bottle of vodka. In The Last Crusade, it was the Holy Grail. And in the Temple of Doom, it was a Shiva Linga stone. This is where I feel The Last Crusade would actually win over Temple of Doom. The Shiva Linga stone is a representation of the deity Shiva and is used to worship like Christians use the crucifix. It's a foreign MacGuffin to most Christian cultures, and while I do applaud Lucas and his writers in including other religions into the Indiana Jones franchise, it's just too unknown in Western cultures for us to get behind Indy risking life and limb to try to recover it. The Last Crusade, on the other hand, it's the cup that Jesus drank from at the Last Supper. Of course we want to see it, and we want Indy to get over the Nazis. Last Crusade wins.
But that's it, and it looks like Temple of Doom wins over The Last Crusade, not only for these reasons, but also for trying to be a totally different film than Raiders of the Lost Ark, and even trying to top it with its action scenes. Yeah, I know that The Last Crusade has Sean Connery in it, but him and all of the supporting characters were just goofballs and more in it for the comic relief than progressing the actual story. That and this.
We named the dog Indiana.
Motherfucker! I'm ZAck Scott, and I'll see you on the next Laserdisc Memories.
各自我随飞，我龙天劳动，我总是打算一定会把 anything goes。